Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the Citizen Oversight Board to order at 10:02. I believe we have our the guest Johanna Holyoke face, and we'll be briefly going over the annual report presentation for 2024. Board and some board discussions. So we'll go, before we do the annual report, we'll go ahead and go to the public comments. Johanna,
we had announcements first, and then just the one. I'm happy to do it too. It's just that the board has 2 vacancies that the mayor is responsible for filling and working towards that. So anyone who is listening to the call, interested in the board's work, is encouraged to apply and spread the word. And that there's more information on our website. That's that.
We'll go ahead and just transition to the public comments first. Johanna Holyoke, are you ready?
Yes. Are you okay to do it before the presentation is done right now? Are you okay to do it now, or do you want to wait?
I'll wait.
You do it now. Okay, I'll move the laptop closer so it'll be ready.
Did they put their names on the chat? So I couldn't quite hear all of the last name.
I'll let her introduce herself, but I'll also type it in.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Johanna Holyoke face.
Welcome.
I'm just here this morning. It seems like it's like the 3rd time I'm here for justice for my son Waylon Austin John. You know, the first time when we met, I thought everything was going to go through from what we had asked for. Actually, it hasn't, and it's been a year now, a little over a year. November will be 2 years. And we still haven't received the reports from the police department, the sheriff's department, the coroners, everybody yet. And I know you people said you were going to work on it, and the lady that was supposed to got all of that together for us went on vacation last year, and now again she's on vacation again, so we still haven't received anything from her. And also, you know, being a Native American, I'm from North Dakota. I'm one of the members of the Sitting Bull tribe. And I feel that whatever we're requesting and asking isn't following through. We have to keep sending emails to you people and the other ones, the OIM. And we don't get no response until it's ready for us to come into the board hearings. And I also, my family feel like we're being ignored. And just because we're full-blooded Indians, I feel that we're just like anybody else. And I know a lot of Native people don't have the money and the funds to do their justice for their loved ones and their families and relatives. So I feel that I'm being ignored, me and my family with my son. You know, just like another person out there, life being taken. And it's hard for us, his siblings and family members and people that knew him, and we miss him very, very much. He's done artwork here in Denver. And when we go to those places and we see his artwork, we miss him a lot. And his life was taken too short, too soon. In our way, and I'm sure in everybody else's life of, you know, living in this planet, that our children ain't supposed to go before us. They're supposed to go after we leave. It's not that way anymore. And I feel that my son's life was taken from his little boy that just turned 4 in February and has no clue, you know, of knowing where his dad is anymore. I have to live with him thinking, you know, and he looks just like my son, so it hurts my feelings so much. And I gotta live with this the rest of my life until I'm ready to leave too. Thinking about the things that had happened to him that day on November 3rd. And I know he was in pain, I know he was hurting, and I know that he had passed away in the city jail before they even tried to transport him to Denver Health. They did not get a hold of me until 4 or 5 hours afterward to tell me that he had, you know, passed, which is not fair because at Denver Health, I go there for my health care. My kids were all born there, and I'm sure my name is on there, who his mother is, but I don't understand why they never called me ahead of time to let me know that he was there in the ICU so I could see him and be with him before he left. But that is not fair. They also had like 14 different medicine machines around him, and that was going through his IVs. Why? One was fentanyl. Why? He wasn't in pain. He was already gone. When I got there to feel him, he was already like you see them in the morgue. He was already cold and frozen. So I know he passed away in the city jail because I know my children, as being a mother, that you have your feelings and bonding with your children. You know, when things happen to them, you also can tell when something is gonna go wrong with them, so you go and check on them. And that's what I do with every one of my children. So I think that there is not fair to me at all. And I would like to really get the reports that we asked for. And like they said the very first time that they needed $3,700 for us to get those reports. If that's the issue with the lady that's getting them, then we might as well go on GoFundMe and just put it out there, the reason why I need that.
First, I'd like to apologize for the loss. I can only emphasize on the loss of losing a son. But we will look into it and get back to you. Figure out what's going on, and we could tell you what the $3,700 is going to be for.
I couldn't hardly hear her.
Oh,
Could you say
sorry.
it again, Commissioner?
Can you hear me now? It's a little bit better. Okay.
Yeah.
So first I wanted to apologize for the loss of your son. I can only empathize. I don't know that loss, but I know that that is a great pain. that no one should experience, especially a parent. Did they say what the $3,700 is going to be used for?
Yes, to get the reports from them, that's what they asked for.
From the Denver Health or?
Sandy can explain. Sandy's on there.
Sandy, the lawyer, she'll explain it.
Just letting Ms. Sandra Freeman join as a panelist so she can speak and feel free to unmute Sandra and you can go ahead and chime in.
Okay, good morning. Morning, everybody. Thank you again for meeting with us a third time regarding Mr. Wayland John and with Ms. Holly Elkface and her counsel. As Ms. Holly Elkface did say, we have requested records from the Department of Public Safety several times. We requested those under CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act, as well as CCJRA, the Colorado Criminal Justice Records Act. We had submitted a complaint regarding officers' activity, both the Denver Police Department and the Denver Sheriff's Department, and following notice that those complaints had been investigated and closed. We also did request records pursuant to the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act, which does contemplate that video and audio will be released when requested by a civilian within 21 days, and that video and audio of a death will be released to the family. Those have not been released to us. As Ms. Holly Elkface did say, we were quoted a pretty steep price, and the law does say that a public agency can, if somebody is indigent, if there are good reasons to take into consideration that those fees can be reduced. It doesn't seem that it was rejected by Ms. Weber from the Department of Public Safety, whom we've been communicating with, and the request for records, for release of records following our complaint, has been sort of not responded to. And so we appreciate your time. We appreciate your oversight of the oversight process. And I just appreciate Ms. Holly Elkface for really encouraging us lawyers who are trained to be adversarial, for really coming together to try to find common ground and a way forward here. I thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Did anybody else from the board have any questions for Ms. Freeman or Ms. Holly?
Yeah. Yeah, Ms. Freeman, so thank you both. So is it my understanding then that the records that you've been seeking for a while are records that you've sought from the Department of Public Safety, and the cost of the records that you're seeking, they're saying is going to be $3,700, but what you're saying is, Ms. Freeman, that based on financial circumstances, that amount can be reduced. So is my number one, is my understanding correct? And then number two, are these records from the Department of Public Safety and Denver Health, or just the Department of Public Safety? Because obviously Denver Health would have records as well.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Stein. We have independently sought the records from the hospital.
I
This
see.
a request for records only of the departments that would be under the Department of Public Safety, so the Denver Police Department and the Denver Sheriff's Department. We did ask for consideration of a fee waiver back in December of 2024. And I did cite the law, which allows for waiver of costs, especially in circumstances like this where we are talking about the family seeking records of potential misconduct, which they are entitled to under the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act. The response that we did receive in December was that the Department of Public Safety would be happy to help us narrow requests, but fees will not be waived. And there has just been no further sort of addressing of our requests to waive fees. I then, after that conversation, submitted a request under the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act for the records, which I think are contemplated as must be released within a certain amount of time. And the Department of Public Safety has been non-responsive to that request.
Okay, that's very helpful. And it sounds like you've been very thorough and been zealously representing your client. So applaud you for that. What is the status of your records request from Denver Health? As in, I know we were talking about the Department of Public Safety, but what about the status of your request for records from Denver Health?
Those were turned over forthwith upon request last year.
Okay.
Miss Attorney Hernandez, I saw your hand up too. I just want to make sure to.
Stefan,
All good.
Stefan,
All
if it's
good.
okay, I just had a question about when was the denial issued to you by Department of Public Safety?
In December for the fee waiver cost. The subsequent Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act request after our complaint was filed, that request I received a response earlier this week that was non-responsive, that said there's no criminal record for the person requested, but that's actually not what we asked for. We did ask for audio and video. I did ask Ms. Weber from the Department of Public Safety to please respond to me by this morning to let me know when they would be turning those over, as the statute does contemplate 21 days, and have not heard back from her.
Thank you. Now, do we have copies of those requests, Ms. Freeman?
I am not sure. Mr. Van Scooten, I think, has been in some communication with folks from DPS, and I know that Ms. Perez Castle has been as well.
Rufina, I can say we have Ms. Freeman shared copies of the original records requests. I do not think we have a copy of the latest one under the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act. But we do have the original copies of the original requests. I can make sure that I can resend them to you if you'd like.
Yes, thanks. I would like to see them. Thank you.
Can you send them to the board? That would be great.
Yeah.
Daniel, can you shed any light on any of this at all? I mean, I don't know what if you have any more information on the status of these requests and the responses.
I have not been, I believe Liz has been in more direct contact with the Department of Public Safety and encouraging them to act. I can't speak to any of their conversations. But I think the extent of my knowledge has been already clarified of, there was a records request. The Department of Public Safety took quite a while in responding to that request and getting that initial estimate of being able to quantify the responsive records and estimate the amount of time that it would take to process them for release to make sure that there's no, I guess, privileged or exempt material in there. And the estimated cost of that processing was $3,000 some. And so that's about the extent of my personal knowledge of where this stands. I think I'm not sure exactly when the 21 days is up, or if they're already in violation of that. But that's certainly something to that we can follow up on and try to figure out why, why that portion of the law is or is not being complied with.
Okay, and I think we can also follow up with Ms. Castle, with Liz, to find out. She may have more information on status.
Yeah, and she'll be back on Tuesday.
Okay.
Monday's the holiday.
Okay, I suggest that we do that.
And Miss Holy Elk Face, is that, who was the woman that you're referring to is on vacation? Is that Miss Castle?
Ms. Castle's currently out of the office, but she was referring to Ms. Weber from the Department of Public Safety.
Oh, okay.
That is their records manager, essentially. So Ms. Weber is the person in the Department of Public Safety who's responsible for handling records requests of this type.
Okay, and she's the one that you said, was on vacation at one point and then she's on vacation again. And so you feel like you're not getting responses from her?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this the case where we're challenging the fee being required for giving a report?
I don't believe we've challenged anything
No.
yet, at least not formally.
Okay.
I can't speak to informal conversations or private conversations that may have occurred.
I think we need to follow up with Liz and get more information from her, because I know she was more involved, as you say, Daniel, in checking on the status of these records requests. And then I think, after coordinating with her, then, we can do, take an action item as appropriate, with her and or with the Department of Public Safety to find out what's going on here. But this is very helpful to get this information, and we're sorry that you have to follow up so many times, but appreciate your patience and your dialogue with us.
I think we have.
Karen.
I have a question. Ms. Freeman, do you anticipate filing a wrongful death lawsuit? Or has one been filed?
One has not been filed. To Miss Holy Elkface's credit, she is really encouraged. And look, I'm a law-trained attorney. I know some of you are as well. And law is so adversarial. It is really uncommon for us to be seeking common points of view. And Miss Holy Elkface has really encouraged us to approach this in a dialogue and restorative way. I will say that I am counsel is preparing to file litigation. That this has seemed, even though I think we're hoping to approach this from an angle of mediation and of being able to together learn about Denver's processes, that this is something that we are really sort of considering that litigation we would have to do by November of this year, and that it is really coming to be time for us to litigate.
Yes, I recognize that time has elapsed and you're getting close to some very important timelines. So I do think that we need to make this a priority for getting some answers from both OIM and also, the Office of Independent Monitor, and also DP, Department of Public Safety. Ms. Holy Elkface, I am very sorry that you're still having to start. It's almost as though you're still starting from fresh, and that should not be happening to anyone. You should have had some answers at least by now. So let us put on some inquiry ourselves and look into this even further. When is Liz scheduled to be back?
Next week, Tuesday.
Okay, so our next meeting would be April.
Our next scheduled meeting is April 11th.
All right. So let's put this on the agenda for us to have some direct information from OIM and also from Miss Weber. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate person on the other side. Stefan, I'm going to defer to you as to what is our protocol, because I'm obviously a new member and may be moving along sides that aren't correct.
No, I think we need to get some more information ourselves. I think it's fine. I think we just need to confer with Liz and see where all this is at. I have a feeling that Liz has more information about this, so it's difficult for us to respond without getting more information, and then we can determine our next steps.
We get any information, Matt? Are you able to give us any additional information at this point?
I apologize, but I don't have any more information. I'm sitting in for Liz and Greg today, but I am not involved in this case, and I wasn't aware of the records request. But I'm sure she can give you all an update Tuesday.
Have you ever seen a case similar?
I think have been cases in the past where the release of records and video associated with in custody deaths or officer involved shootings have been difficult, and I think that that's part of why the Law Enforcement Integrity Bill from 2020 included this kind of language. Then I'm not sure exactly how it applies in this case. I haven't been kind of involved in it, but I think I know Liz has worked on it and others in the office, so I'm sure they can give you a pretty thorough overview.
Have you seen cases where this amount is being requested for a report to be issued?
I don't have I can't think of a specific example, but I know that it can be costly to, part of the Law Enforcement Integrity Bill requires that information be redacted, and that can be costly, especially when it involves video. And I don't know the specifics of this case, but if I had to guess, those are the kind of issues that are affecting the estimate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's helpful to learn about the context, perhaps. But have you seen a case where a year and plus it takes to get some sort of response?
I have not, but I'm not directly involved in these kind of items as they come up. So it very well could have happened. Just not kind of my realm of expertise.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, Matt.
And thank you, Ms. Freeman, for the update that it's $2,700 and not $3,700. So I appreciate that. Still seems to be an egregious amount for a records request reduction. But Daniel, can we take an action item to follow up with Liz, but provide Ms. Freeman and Ms. Holyoke face a update pretty quickly, regardless of the status, just to let them know that we are looking into it and it's ongoing, so that they're not feeling as if it's just being thrown by the wayside.
Certainly. I think we can also, you know, formalize potentially we could, you know, send a more formal letter to the Department of Public Safety on the issue. Since, you know, that my understanding is most of the concern is, you know, we can't release their records. As much as we would like to be able to speed this up, it's really their process and their timeline, and it's in their control. So.
Okay. Well, I think Liz has a lot more information here. I think we're guessing a lot, and so we will follow up with Liz and then take appropriate action. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention again. Unfortunately, I do apologize that you've had to do it 3 times, but like we said, we will follow up with Liz when she returns to the office on Tuesday. So if does anybody have any last minute questions or comments?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Holyoke face.
I just want to say that it's kind of like, to me, like a puzzle thing here, because from the beginning, when it all happened, Jefferson County Police Department were the ones that had my son first, and did the assault to him, beating him up. I have witnesses that were there watching what they did to him. The manager, the owner of the motel said that it looked like a movie that they show about cops and victims, what they did to him. So then the Denver police showed up there at that property. And Jefferson Police gave him over to the Denver police, and they said it took like 6 guys to pick him up off the ground and put him in the back of the Denver police car. And that's how he ended up down to Denver City Jail. So I would like to still meet them officers, those 4 officers that did the harm to him and beat him up like that. And I know that 2 of the sheriffs, I don't know if it's Denver, or I can't remember, but Sandra knows, that were fired. And there were also inmates that were in the city jail that heard Waylon banging on the door and yelling that he needed help, that he was gonna have a seizure. So nobody tended to him, so everybody else there in the city jail started running their water to overflood the floor so they can get their attention that he needed help. And by the time when they all ran down there to him, they closed all their curtains so they couldn't, their windows, so they couldn't see that he was deceased or still alive. But I know he passed there. And that is not fair. You know, us mothers carry our children for 9 whole months to bring them into this world. That's how everybody comes into this world, from the mothers. And bring them here to protect them, teach them to do good, not to bring them into this world to get beat up and their lives taken away. And I'm speaking for all the other Native families that also have this same issue in every other state. It's hard. I mean, every mother should know that. You have a hard time bringing them into the world. And then you have a hard time for them to leave you. I'm not gonna let him go home yet. I have his ashes and everything yet. Until this is done, then I'm gonna let him go home. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing. We are hoping that we get something quickly so that you can actually finalize. And we can be at peace. Thank you. Did our other public speaker arrive?
I don't think we have any other public comment.
We will go ahead and go into the brief overview of the annual report for 2024. So we'll briefly be going over the annual report that the Citizen Oversight Board released for 2024.
Tamisha, you're still a little bit fuzzy.
You're having a hard time hearing me?
That's
Yes.
better. That's
Yeah.
better.
Sorry, let me try to talk a little bit louder.
Thanks.
Okay, so a brief roadmap of what we'll be discussing is a review of our mission, some of the activities that were accomplished during 2024 on the behalf of the Citizen Oversight Board, the public safety activities, a review of the OIM's effectiveness and any concerns that we brought to light, and following up with our recommendations based on this concerns. The Citizen Oversight's mission is to foster change towards cooperative, just, and accountable relationships between the Denver's community and law enforcement. Some of the responsibilities, but not limited to, are the overseeing of the Office of Independent Monitor. This includes access to the effectiveness of the monitor's office in whole, and the selection and management of the head of the office. We also provide recommendations to public safety in 2 different levels, from policy level recommendations regarding discipline, use of force, and various other policies. We also make recommendations on a case-specific basis based on things that prescribed in the ordinance. We also address any other matters of concern presented to us by the community. So for the activities for the safety agencies for 2024, in 2024, over $5.1 million in lawsuits were settled that related to public safety, in addition to another 4 million in judgments. Out of those judgments, all but 2 of them were directly related to the Denver Police Department. As well as the police department, they implemented 112 automatic license plate readers. Each month, those readers performed car scans, scanning almost 2 million times and flagging up to 80,000 cars or vehicles. Also, being in compliance with the mayor's safe city goals to reduce gun violence by 20%, DPD kicked off their gun violence reduction initiatives. In the second quarter, the sheriff's department restarted its in-person visitation after 20 years without visitation. They became the only county in Colorado to offer in-person visitation. In the first half of the year, there was a brief uptick of suspected overdoses. By the end of the year, the suspected overdoses had dropped substantially. In the second quarter, 911 introduced a smart automated answering service for non-emergency calls. Currently, the service is answering approximately 3% of all incoming non-emergency calls. And when it comes to unhoused, by the end of the year, all of the large encampments issues were resolved, thus dropping calls to 311 and 911 by 45%, and allowing the city to obtain a zero functional for veterans experiencing homelessness. So the other part the board did was we reviewed the Office of Independent Monitor's effectiveness. As a board, we spent a long time on this section, and we were also able to come up with a few areas where we as a board could improve. The first one, we as a board needed to do additional work to ensure strategic alignment between the board and the OIM. This included better communicating what we needed from them and what we wanted from them. We needed to differentiate our dual obligations for confidentially evaluating the performance of the OIM and the independent monitor, and publicly assessing the effectiveness of the OIM as a whole. Some of the concerns that the board realized in 2024 from a discipline area, the intake process, the DPD policy allows for a judicial remedy alternative to internal investigations. The Department of Safety and DPD did not do concurrent criminal and administrative investigations, causing lengthy investigations. And that they were experiencing a backlog of cases in the AAU that led to fewer disciplinary actions for the Sheriff's Department. And reviewing the conduct, DPD proposed implementing a education-based discipline process as a revamp. They have unsuccessfully been able to recruit a pool of community members to serve on its use of force review board. Also during for decision and conclusion, the Civil Service Commission upheld a case in which the DPD delayed sending out completed disciplinary recommendations to the Department of Safety for 2.5 months. As well as they were able to update their complaint closure letters, but instead provided more information like we asked. But they have updated their policy to require individuals who wanted that information to pay to get that access. When it comes to the appeals portion of the discipline, the Department of Safety does not provide the OIM with an opportunity to review any of the settlements post-appeal. We feel that the OIM should have access to be able to do that on all post-appeal settlements. The CSC overturned discipline in the police shooting case. We believe that was incorrectly decided, and we feel demonstrates an opportunity for them to provide additional training for their hearing officers, especially regarding the roles played by the COB and LIM. Some of our general concerns was for settlement and compliance and oversight. Those are for the non-monetary items listed in the settlements. The Department of Safety was able to increase their transparency in 2024, but they did not formalize the process in which they used to include that transparency. And the Office of Neighborhood Safety, it was newly created. It has a great opportunity to be very beneficial, but a few details are available about its operations and standards. Unfortunately, they were supposed to create a community board in 2024, and they did not fully do that. Currently, they are moving forward with the creation of that community advisory board, and they are looking for interested members. The applications are open till April 11th for those who are seeking to be a part of that board. Okay, the Correction Healthcare, DSD increased its transparency and improved oversight of medical grievances. Some things are still not as transparent as they need to be. Continuing with the understaffing of the Sheriff's Department. Overtime remains an issue. They're still working mandatory 14 to 16-hour shifts. And civilian vacancies have increased. So in that total, the Sheriff's Department has added 12 deputies, but have lost a total of 22 civilian staff members in 2020. So finally, the board came up with a couple recommendations for all of the areas. Under the police department, we were recommending that the OIM should have access to the footage for the use of force incidences. So the police department should proactively share all use of force footage with the OIM as we attempt to move towards an unfederated access to body worn. Secondly, we are suggesting that they remove the policy that allows for judicial remedy instead of being able to do disciplinary actions. Third, we are suggesting that Complainants get access to all the details when it comes to the outcomes of their respective cases. So in 2024, DPD stood up a drone program, and we are suggesting that they implement a dashboard for public drone usage prior to them using them as first responders. And we would like them to reevaluate its approach to recruiting community members to serve on their use of force board, or they're actively seeking community members. For the, yes. For the sheriff's department, we're asking that they enhance the Denver Health dashboard to include the verification of prescription and eyeglasses, as well as provide additional details of grievances. We were also requesting that they provide access to any of the AR reports and investigations that involved serious incidents. We would like to suggest that that they look into the significant drop in civilian staffing, performing an after-action review to identify those reasons. And since they had just opened up and created the an in-person visitation facility, we would like to encourage them to encourage the use of that facility. Okay. And we also would like them to continue to invest in the reduction of overdose prevention efforts for those who are investing. For the Department of Safety, we're recommending that they pay closer attention to their operations to reduce the likelihood of backlogs in the AIU. We're wanting the OIM to have the opportunity to review and comment on post-appeal settlements as well, like we've mentioned before. And the other one is emphasizing the importance of better communication with complainants. This is to better communicate. Communication can include our prior recommendations about requiring public facing modules for their discipline database, or improving training and increasing staff capacity. For the Civil Service Commission, we only have 2 recommendations there, and those would be that the Civil Service Commission should consider using the Monaco shooting as an example in its training case studies. And finally, the opportunity should be at both the hearing officer and commission levels for the OIM to provide comments. And other recommendations are basically, in general, we are recommending that the OIM's budget be increased to correspond with the safety's budget. And the Department of Safety should begin administrative investigations so that they are run concurrently with the criminal investigations. We think that the Crime Prevention and Control Commission should become a dynamic force for intervention. We also believe that the Department of Safety should increase its capacity at the halfway houses, create and implement a database on disciplinary actions that will be available for the public, and that the ONS should maximize its impact of the aid center. Okay, was there any questions or comments regarding the overview? No questions on that? Okay, if there's no questions, we can go ahead, and briefly move into the board discussion, details. There, we can't do too much since we don't have quorum right now. So do we want to table that issue, Daniel?
We
So,
can still have discussions. We just cannot, if we don't have a quorum, we can't make final decisions. But, you know, to the extent that there's ideas or things to work through, we can certainly have discussions.
Do we have, membership and, term limits? Did you want to talk about that, Daniel?
Sure. Give me just 2 seconds here. So yeah, a couple different board discussion topics that we can talk about. I believe the first one was just debriefing the annual report process. And this doesn't have to be a conversation that is purely limited to this meeting, but I think worth starting here about how board members felt that the annual report creation process went. Was there anything sort of process-wise that you liked or would like to see changed? Was there anything as it relates to the final product that you're, you know, whether it's the tables or the data or the structure or whatever it might be, anything process related or product related? And then sort of the third question was, you know, was there any point in which you know, you felt you could have been better prepared or equipped to engage in that process?
I'll go ahead and start. Well, I think once we form our committees, and I'm not sure, you know, how many committees will actually be involved, but I think there will be perhaps an opportunity for each of the committees to contribute to the annual report in the future. I'm not sure, again, because we don't at this moment have those already established, but I think that might also increase engagement on the part of all of the different board members. You know, it's a very arduous task for sure, creating this report, and I appreciated all of the effort that everyone gave to this. I thought, you know, it was a good outcome. I know there's been some comment about the length of the report. So I'm not sure whether we'll see a report in the future that is as extensive, but certainly as our work increases, it should reflect that. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
So they were feeling like the report was too long for the amount of work we did, or?
No, I think there was concern about how long it was, but I think it reflected the work. So I didn't have a problem with the length, but we did hear comments in other instances where it was a long report.
I think more the issue there, yes, I completely agree that you know, the length of the report certainly reflected all the work we did all year, and it was very thoroughly done. The concern is that it's a report for the public, and we want to have a document for the public to read and make it easier for the public to read and understand. I know in the past, like for example, the PowerPoint that, you know, that Daniel and Tamisha and others put together, that's a very helpful summary. And perhaps that may be the only thing that the public will focus on, is something that's more brief like that with bullet points and the like. And so I think I agree. I think there were comments about that. I agree with Rafina. I mean, I just think we need to think about, is there a way for us to streamline the actual report itself just to make it more readable by the public? But, you know, that's a tough balance, because you do want to include all the relevant information in terms of the activities of the board all year. So it's just something I think that's worth considering and grappling with.
Yeah.
Any other comments before you leave, Stefan?
No, but thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. I will see you all in 2 weeks, if not sooner. All right.
Okay, see you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
So was that the only feedback we had for the annual report?
Karen, did you have any thoughts?
No, I concur with what has been said. I mean, it's tough to try to figure out how to be thorough and be short-winded about it. It's like there was a lot to cover. And two, I mean, I think that we've kind of talked about the need to be I don't want to say more transparent, but certainly to be more revealing in terms of what our processes are when dealing with policy change and discussions about policy, and what happens when policy is not adhered to. So we you know, a lot of the work that the independent monitor does breeds discussion among us, and you know, we can't always talk about that because of deliberative privilege, but I think we continue to be challenged with how to explain what our processes are, especially when it appears to the public that we are not very effective and really don't have a voice. You know, I've heard tiger without teeth. You know, so I've heard a lot of descriptions about our effectiveness.
Yeah.
Did folks have any pain points, particular pain points, whether you have a solution for the pain point or not, but just particular moments as it relates to the annual report where you felt there was a high degree of friction or just difficult to work through that could have been improved?
Well, one of my challenges is trying to stay on top of the different changes. And so, candidly, you know, I would wait till certain edits were made, and then I would go back and review. But because it was changing quite a bit in that process. So I don't know that it can be resolved, but certainly, I don't know. I think, you know, we need more of the board to be in that kind of conversation. So I think we should wait to have more conversation with the rest of the board.
Sure. Version control is a challenge.
Yeah, always, especially with this number of people. So, yeah.
Okay. The other discussion, and again, we're not making final decisions here on anything, was about the committees that you mentioned, Rufina. In our strategic planning process, we've been discussing the creation of 2 committees. One primarily focused on outreach and sort of community engagement. The other one focused primarily more internally on management and performance evaluations and goal setting and things like that. You know, the specific outlines of those, you know, that mission and purpose are a little fuzzy. As well as, you know, we got volunteers sort of for the different committees, but we haven't spent any time talking about, you know, how long members would be on those committees, and how often those committees would meet. So I was just wanted to open the floor and sort of start that conversation here. If folks have any ideas about, how often the committee should meet, how long board members should plan to be on those committees at a time. Is it annual? Is it sort of a 2-year commitment?
Terms are
Whatever.
4 years, correct? Our terms are 4 years?
The terms of board members are 4 years long. Obviously, resignations can affect that, and board members can be appointed to fill a vacancy for the remainder of that term. So it's, I wouldn't base anything too strictly on a 4-year cycle. But yes, board member terms are 4 years typically.
2 years is a good time frame for membership on a committee. You start to get, you get to be establish some expertise in that particular area, and then it's not too long that you feel, kind of constrained and unable to participate in other areas. So I think 2 years would be probably the max that I would suggest. It could be an annual, but the turnover then seems to be a bit much if you're constantly getting new members and not having the kind of expertise that you can develop with a longer term. So that would be my suggestion.
I would agree with 2 years.
But if somebody's itching to get to another committee, I mean, heck, we're not going to stop them. So
Yeah, I wonder if there's maybe a difference between, like, an expectation of 2 years of service, but not necessarily rigid rules around that.
yeah. This is our first time trying this, so there's a lot of changes that we can put into the system so that it's not hard and fast from the get-go. I think there's a lot of flexibility we can afford at this point until we feel like we've hit it, just right. So that would be my recommendation. Stay flexible on this and keep improving and tweaking as we go. In terms of meeting cadence, we're every other month. So the situation with committees is that they need to meet more frequently in order to provide more specific information to the board. So if once a month is too much for folks, then at least on the month that you're not meeting with the board, then the committee would be meeting.
Well, I mean, we meet twice a month. So currently on the second and fourth Fridays is standard board meetings.
Apologies.
I know you know that. It's just
yeah, it's hard to keep track.
And so, I think there's a question there of, board member bandwidth and, is it enough to meet once a month and then sort of report back quarterly? Is it, something where sort of the standard is once a month, but obviously committees could schedule them. Do we just want committees to schedule themselves as they feel they need to? Do we want to sort of set any expectations around that in terms of, meet when you need to meet, when you need to get work done? But, probably at least once a month.
Say that it's going to depend on what we expect or the outcome from those subcommittees. And then once we get that fleshed out, then we can kind of set the expectation, or that subcommittee can set the expectation of when we need to meet and often in order to get those outcomes achieved.
Right. Okay.
So we had do we have anything else about the subcommittees?
Karen, what do you think
I'm sorry, what's the question?
about committees?
Yeah.
How often to meet?
Well, obviously, it's gonna be determined by the amount of time available per each individual to devote to a particular topic that we're working on. You know, as I recall, I signed up for the outreach. And so, you know, in doing outreach last year, there were several occasions where we went to street, what do you call them?
Fairs?
Street fairs, yeah.
Yeah.
To sit at a table and be available to present information and talk to citizens about what we do and that kind of thing. And you know, we did that. We were able to sign up for shifts doing that. But that's a situation where, you know, and certainly in the summertime, you've got street fairs happening almost every month. And the need for people to sign up, you know, to cover a day-long event, it requires more time. And, you know, it's going to depend on our willingness, those who sign up for that particular committee, our willingness to be available when the public is out and about, and you know, we've got that kind of a captive audience in terms of people walking through, to be able to reach out to folks. But you know, I don't think you can assess it. I don't think you can talk about any particular time period that would be a requirement that you devote time to a committee. It depends on what that committee requires, you know, to thoroughly cover the subject matter and come up with plans and solutions.
What were the two committees again, Daniel?
We had one that was a community engagement, community outreach committee.
Right.
That sort of the primary sort of initial goal would be to sort of create a community outreach plan,
Right.
sort of more systemic plan for the board to be, you know, to evaluate really as a committee, you know, do we want to be going to street fairs? Is that a good use of our time? Or do we need to be doing more sort of direct partnerships or more sort of grassroots, you know, social media, newsletter? Like there's different ways to do community engagement and outreach, and we have
Right.
limited capacity. And so the, you know, trying to create a plan and really intentionally think through the different alternatives and how to be intentional about that, instead of sort of doing a little bit of everything and not very well, or at least not with a lot of intention behind it.
And the second?
The second one was sort of for lack of a better word, we didn't really name it, but a management committee.
Okay.
One that was, you know, I think initially, at least their primary purpose initially would be to try to systematize the management of myself as well as the independent monitor in terms of annual performance goals, annual performance evaluations. And there's certainly a fair amount of overlap between, you know, as Tamisha mentioned in the presentation, there's a fair amount of overlap, and I need to distinguish between, you know, the personal performance of the monitor as well as the overall effectiveness of the OIM. And so whether or not the board wants to have that committee be the lead on sort of that section of the annual report as well, in terms of the monitor's performance, but also the OIM as a whole. I think there's discussion to be had there with the fuller board as well, but something to be thinking about. But as a start, it was more of a personnel management committee,
Okay.
but not necessarily exclusively.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. So those were the only two.
We had talked about potentially more during our strategic planning process, but I think in terms of, I think what my recollection is that the desire was to start smaller and start with what really the highest priorities were, get those working, and if we feel like we have more capacity or we have more need, we can either create sort of an ad hoc sort of temporary committee or if we really need to expand, we can expand to a third committee. But that really, we could create a third committee. I think there was discussion about like a policy focused committee, or discipline focused committee. But in terms of board member capacity and interest, we're going to start with the two that seem to have the most energy behind them.
Okay, great. All right.
Perhaps we need another meeting to kind of flesh out.
Yeah, I think that'll be our next meeting is on April 11th. That is planned to be an in-person meeting here downtown. And so that'll be, I think, an excellent opportunity to continue working through and hope, potentially make decisions related to these topics that we're sort of opening up here.
Funny you mentioned April 11th. So I know that you and I were talking yesterday, and we don't have quorum to make the decision, but we kind of, since it was an in-person meeting, we wanted to kind of have it be more like a meet and greet opportunity.
Yeah, that's certainly, I think that we can roll right into sort of scheduling a little bit. I think that's, if we're going to be meeting here at downtown, the question was, do we want to set aside a portion of that meeting time for sort of a social meet and greet with any employees from the OIM who are in the office that day, and potentially also we could incorporate lunch into that, sort of have a social lunch, and they have new office space, so the board members could sort of visit and take a tour of the new office space, and sort of build some of those connections that we've been talking about for a while now.
That would be great.
And
Be
so,
nice. Fabulous.
we can I'll solicit some more any other board member opinions over email over the weekend, and next week we can move forward with some of the concrete, assuming no objections, maybe move forward with some of the more concrete aspects of that,
Okay.
formally inviting the OIM to join us for the back. I don't know if it's a half or half an hour, or just setting aside time for lunch. I know sometimes board members have hard outs at noon, especially when we're in person. And so, whether it's setting aside part of the board meeting time, the last half hour for social lunch or something like that, just to sort of build some relationships, more than doing formal work.
It is a Friday.
It's a Friday.
So, and my understanding is most people are gone on the Fridays. Is that right?
This entire building is more or less a ghost town on Fridays.
Yeah.
And so that's where it would take, some advance notice. And I mean, we could even do this a little bit more regular. I mean, we typically try to meet in person once a quarter at least. And so, we could make it a standing process where, every time we meet in person, or the first Friday of the first meeting of the quarter is in person with food provided or whatever, and time set aside for sort of a social. I don't know if, it's an option. It's something to think about for sure.
Okay. I like that idea.
I do too.
Great. That's preliminarily, move forward with that, and certainly share that with the rest of the board, and see if they have thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. I know since we don't have quorum, we may not be able to talk about the budget too much, but currently we have between 10 and 15,000 that we can use this year on priorities. So we can definitely, if we're gonna have lunch, I think that we have some resources to tap into to provide lunch.
Yeah, no, that would certainly, lunches for, probably 20 people, assuming a good turnout from the OIM side. would not be a heavy lift in terms of our budget capacity. Just a couple times a year. The question, we do have space in our budget. Last year we used that space to hire strategic planning facilitator. In prior years, they've used some of that money to hire consultants to help with the annual report process or whatever. But just wanted to flag that we do have that sort of space in our budget this year. I don't think we're planning on hiring another strategic planning consultant this year.
Yeah, I think we're done.
If board members, have just want to encourage board members to be thinking about, and if you have ideas now, that'd be fantastic, about how to best direct those funds to our priorities, right? We're not looking to waste money and just spend it because we have it. But how can we, given the priorities and the work that we've done with our strategic planning process, it's not final yet, but we sort of have a good sense of what our priorities are. Given those, be thinking about how can we, how would additional resources help? How can we use those resources to further those goals?
Okay.
And who knows, there could be, I think last year there was, mid-year budget cuts. And so it's not guaranteed, anything can happen. But especially with federal funding and whatnot in jeopardy. But as of right now, we do have a bit of capacity to put towards more discretionary purposes. A large part of our budget is put towards, board member stipends, supporting events that we might hold as part of our, obligations, as well as sort of training and travel to the NACL conference. And so a lot of that isn't particularly discretionary, but we do have a little bit, we do have some discretionary funds to sort of to work with this year.
So is that 10 to 15,000 excluding the upcoming NACL conference?
It's assuming 4 people go to the NACL conference. So I think last year we had 5 board members plus myself, so that was 6. So assuming a smaller delegation, but certainly, we could send more to that conference again if we choose to.
Okay.
We have about 2 more minutes, and since we can't really decide anything regarding the budget without quorum, we have the second quarter scheduling updates.
Yes. And this shouldn't take a full 10 minutes. But I just wanted to briefly go over, I'll share my screen here as well. But wanted to go over our schedule, our planned schedule for second quarter. There we go. I believe you guys can see this now.
Yes.
So we are up here on the last, today's the last meeting of the first quarter. Quarter 2 is April through June. We're currently scheduled to have our in-person meeting on the 11th. I recently was I was recently made aware that April 25th is during our board meeting time. There is a graduation for DPD. Police recruits are graduating from the academy, and they have a big ceremony for that. And so all public safety leadership is going to be there at that graduation ceremony. So Executive Director Saldate is not going to be able to join us at that time. And so working to reschedule him. But that is again, another meeting where we can, we in effect have 3 meetings without public safety guests. So today, April 11th, and then April 25th. And so I think that's a unique window. We don't usually have that kind of opportunity, but a unique window to really dive into our internal processes and things like committees, budget, and strategic plan. Potentially also, Liz usually does go to those graduations, but the board could request that she attend our board meeting instead. And if we have specific things to work through with her, potentially a longer executive session or something like that.
Is the graduation at 10 o'clock exactly?
It is from 10 to noon. Yes.
Oh, gosh. So it's a
It
direct
is
conflict.
direct conflict. So, assuming I'm kind of working on the assumption that we're not going to reschedule our meetings, given that we have a whole lot of people who have sort of already blocked this time off, and it's sometimes
Yeah.
possible, but always difficult to reschedule. And so we try not to do that unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Could that time be devoted to examining or reviewing any additional information we get about the EBD, I think it's called?
Certainly, I think that would be, as assuming it's in draft form still, it would be an executive session, and so we could certainly have sort of an extended executive session on that day to go over any kind of updates related to deliberative matters, whether that's policy or whether that's specific cases, or any other thing like that.
Okay.
Example, I had asked for whatever research there was being used. Have we received any of that?
I have not. I can follow up and see where that is.
Okay. That's very good that we have 2 meetings where we can devote a lot of time to the strategic plan and the follow-up on the annual report and things such as that. So I'm not unhappy that we have those 2 meetings available.
Yeah, and so just in terms of ramifications of that, though, we're not planning on meeting on the 23rd of May, given it's a big holiday weekend. People have a lot of travel plans and things. These last 2 meetings of the quarter, they're all public safety leadership has check-ins with the mayor from 10 to 11, and so that limits. We could probably still meet with Chief Thomas there from like 11 to 12 and sort of flip our typical meeting structure. But my thought was I want to ask the board, I guess, if what you guys think about doubling up on May 9th and inviting Director Saldate to join Sheriff Diggins, and we could do, our regular hour with Sheriff Diggins and then an hour with Director Saldate, and not have our regular sort of executive session or board discussion time, given that we've probably had a fair amount of board discussion time in the previous meetings. Because if we move Director Saldate, because he can't attend on the 25th, if we move him to the end of the quarter, we end up in the fun situation of meeting with him 1 month later at the start of the 3rd quarter. And so wanted to gauge thoughts on doing sort of what do they call it, a double header on the 9th.
Possibility. I want to see how I'm really interested in the strategic plan getting done soon, because otherwise we're into mid-year before anything starts to happen. So I'm a little hesitant to make a decision until perhaps after the April 11th meeting. And we can't make any decisions anyway because we don't have a quorum. So this is all preliminary.
Any other thoughts about potentially doing a double header on May 9th?
I agree with Rufina with regard to the strategic planning. Completion, I guess.
I would Yeah, I would say that, yeah, we could do the double header on May 9th and then, uh, the 25th could be used for the strategic planning finalization. You know,
Yeah, I see the point about not waiting till the 27th. I'm just trying to hold decision on that double header. And we have to meet with him in that quarter, correct?
We are required by ordinance to meet with the chief, the sheriff, and the executive director once a quarter. You know, we are not limited in terms of we could meet with all three of them together in one meeting, and that would satisfy that ordinance requirement. And, you know, whether we want to do that or not, or whether that'd be a effective use of the time. Obviously, you know, we can't. That also requires their cooperation, right? And so if they say they're not available during any of our times, we can't be compliant on our own, right? So we would then, if they refuse to meet with us for whatever reason, whether it's, you know, scheduling conflicts or outright,
It's your point that you need to get him situated now as soon as possible so that we get on his calendar.
I think it would be ideal certainly to at least hold some time on his calendar and have a plan. Whether we decide to move that again, you know, we can always work we can always work around things. But as it stands, this current schedule is not going to be workable. We need to make some changes. And so my sort of initial thought was doubling up on May 9th might be the most the cleanest way to do that. But
Okay.
it's not the only way to do that.
Can the three of us make that decision?
No.
I mean, I think if there's no objections, we can I can ask I mean, sure, Director Saldate is out this week anyway, so nothing will happen until next week anyway.
Yeah.
But I can, you know, if the board members here feel good about it, you know, I can share it via email with the board members who were not able to attend and sort of ask if they have any objections to us scheduling in that way. Typically, you know, the board doesn't vote on a schedule every year anyway. And so
Okay.
it's not necessarily that we need a formal vote. It's just trying to gauge and see where board members are at.
So Daniel, you're suggesting that we meet with Sodate and Thomas on that date?
And Sheriff Diggins on the 9th. And so that would be a very full meeting with probably you know, usually it's between 40 minutes and an hour with each one, depending on how many questions.
Our meetings go the full hour with them, you know, it's
Frequently they
at
do,
least
yes.
it hasn't been with the case since I've come on that we run short. I mean, we don't have any questions for them and we have extra time.
That is very rarely a problem.
Yeah, they seem to go to the hour plus, you know, or whatever. I'm just curious whether or not this is a possibility and you know, strike it down if you wish. But May has 5 Fridays, which is unusual, you know. Could we consider a May 30th date?
We could.
Good answer, Daniel. But I'm more interested in Karen and Tamisha's ideas.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar now to see if I am in town then.
Yeah. Tamisha. It can be virtual.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Typically I'm not available on that day, but yes, I can be available. I can be
It could happen.
It could happen.
Because it would be 2 weeks to 2 weeks before the next meeting. So there'd be the 2-week time frame, so to speak, you know. But it is the week of the holiday, so most people may still be gone on the 30th.
be available. It's just, that week I typically kind of take off.
Right, right. Okay, so it may not be a popular
No,
idea.
it's totally fine. I can be available.
Okay,
What is?
We can ping the rest of the board and see, if we think we'll have a critical mass there for the 30th. And that could
Okay.
potentially simplify, give us more options and simplify our scheduling.
yeah, okay. All right. Sounds good to me.
I think that's gonna be good. And yeah, if we can just make the decision by email, it'd be great. We're coming up on, well, we're past 11:30. We need to transition to executive session for the database presentation. So if I can have a motion.
Okay, I move that we move into executive session.
Second. On favor?
Aye.
And can you give me a invitation, Daniel?
Oh, yeah, I can resend that to you for sure. I'll do that right now.
All right, thank you. See you there.
See you
Bye.
there.